What's up and welcome back. John Stark from MovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. It's Valentine's Day, and it's Black History Month. And this is The Best Man. It turned 25 last year in 2024, so I guess this is the 25th anniversary of The Best Man, a film which I saw back in 1999. And I've seen the subsequent sequel and Peacock series, but I don't think I've actually gone back and watched the original ever since then. So I'm revisiting the original today, which is written and directed by Malcolm D. Lee, and it stars Taye Diggs, Nia Long, Sanaa Lathan, Morris Chestnut, Terrence Howard, Harold Perrineau, and Regina Hall, among some of the, the large cast. Anyway, wow. It's a story of Taye Diggs plays an author who he's just dropped a book that is semi-autobiographical, and he's dropped it at a time where also his friend, played by Morris Chestnut, who's an athlete, professional athlete, sorry, pro football player, and he's scheduled to get married. And Taye Diggs is going to be the best man at this wedding, and him and his friends are sort of reuniting for the first time. This movie definitely focuses a little bit more on the men than the women, although the women do continue to appear throughout the franchise. And Nia Long and Sanaa Lathan both seem to really have a lot more to do than any of the other women in the series. But yeah, some old stuff is dredged up because it wasn't really hid very well in his book, even though Taye's character Harper just keeps saying over and over, it's like, nah, that's not who it was. I don't know, that was one. And people are like, of course that's who it was. I picked up on that. Yeah, that was me. So tensions flare, the heat, the temperature in the room rises. Harper has a current girlfriend, played by Sanaa Lathan, and then is also tempted by the one that never was, played by Nia Long, who is Jordan, who always has had a thing for Taye, but they never actually did anything together. So maybe this is the last chance, and Taye doesn't know. What does he want to do with his life? So does he want to settle down? It seems like his girlfriend wants to settle down. He's getting strong vibes. They sort of move through there, and Terrence and Harold sort of play, I don't know, like secondary best friends. Terrence just seems to be here to like stir up trouble. His character gets more fleshed out as the series progresses, but Harold has a little bit of a character, but honestly, this is mostly between like Taye and Morris, bouncing back and forth, because the conflict that arises is between the two of them and not really the other friends, although they're all together. I like the movie. I liked the movie the first time it came out. I actually think I got it on VHS. This was back in the day, 1999. We're still balancing VHS collections with DVD, the impending DVD collections. And a lot of times I used to pick up movies at my VHS video store, rental store back in the day. We used to have to go to a store to rent things. They weren't just like a button click away. We have to get off our asses and go to a store and walk around and stare at a bunch of titles and be like, what? Which one? What is Transmorphers? So is that trans movie with the robots? It's with Shia LaBeouf. They used to they don't make those movies anymore because the whole point of making Snakes on a Train was to bamboozle people into thinking that that was the movie that they were supposed to be watching. It wasn't. Anyway, so yeah, I think The Asylum just, anyway, The Best Man. Yeah, I got it on VHS, so I think I've seen it once or twice back in the day. It didn't strike me as being like they'll make a sequel to this. Like, this movie makes sense to be a franchise. Um, and yet it has been. It's been turned into it's been sequeled and then also turned into a limited series. So kudos, you know. Yeah, it's got a great cast. I mean, when you think about 1999, and none of these people were really standouts in terms of their careers at this point. They were all still sort of rising stars. Tay is the lead here, but Tay's coming off of a couple things already. He's in 1999, almost at the same time as this, because Best Man was a fall release. He ended up being in House on Haunted Hill, so his profile was a little bit more pronounced. He had already gotten Stella's groove back, and of course, broken through in the cast of Rent on Broadway. So he had done a couple of things where it's like, yeah, people knew who Taye Diggs was, but he was still very much a rising star in 1999. He wasn't like an A-list or anything like that. And Morris Chestnut, same thing. I mean, he's got that awful new CBS procedural that he's just horribly miscast in, but this movie uses him perfectly. He's effortlessly full of charisma and fun. This is absolutely like peak Morris Chestnut. So you got Nia Long, who I always thought was a great actress, and I wish she was doing more still nowadays. The last thing I remember her doing was playing the abducted mother for in I got that one movie where they're anyway. I forgot the name of the movie, but it's one of those movies where they just sit at the computer the whole time, and her daughter's trying to find her. Missing. That's what it was. She was missing for like 5 seconds. So, yeah, you know, I I love Sanaa Lathan, but she's had plenty to do since this movie. I loved her directorial effort on The Come Up. I thought that movie was really underrated for what it was. Harold is on From. I mean, wow. If you haven't seen From, watch From. Terrence is still bouncing around between things where it's like, will you or will not hire? Are you gonna hire him? Maybe have you thought about it? Last thing I saw him in was that awful Crescent City, which is like floating on Tubi, which doesn't make any sense at all. The movie just such an unfortunate thing for Terrence Howard to be in. Um, so good cast. Uh, I I think the movie balances comedy and drama well. I don't think the audio description track is good though. I think the audio description track left a lot to be wanted and desired in this. There are plenty of times where it's like there's something there and I'm expecting a beat. There are times when it's like somebody says something and you could catch a facial reaction because there's like a pause, there's a beat, or somebody stands up from a table suddenly and you can kind of hear the chair. Like there are things that it's like, I think you're just assuming that everybody's connecting all of the dots themselves. But if you're assuming that, then why do we even have audio description? If I can just follow everything by magically without having to connect. No, I'm having to make guesses is what I'm doing. I'm guessing that these are things that are happening. I've also seen the movie before, but um, visually before I lost my vision. So um, that certainly helps. Oddly enough, the best described scene was with the strippers, which I was like, why does this scene have the most description in it? Uh, why do we make sure to come in clutch on the stripper scene? I I don't understand. Like they showed up for that. They were like, we gotta make sure that they know when the boobies are out. That's what the blind people came for. To hear about boobies. I think you're wrong, but I like this. I like the spirit that you got there. Um, yeah, I would say that's the best described scene in the movie, and you know, why? That's not what the movie's about. So, uh, character descriptions are pretty limited. I wasn't expecting it's an all black cast, so I wasn't really expecting people to be like this is what it is. Although we have a tendency when we do have a film or a TV show that lends itself more towards having predominantly not white characters. Those are usually the ones that are better at describing their characters. Ethnically, racially, however you want to put that. So this track just doesn't really do much. It's not really that inspired. It's not that old. It doesn't sound ancient. It doesn't sound super new either. I would think maybe this thing picked up audio description, I would say 10 years ago. But actually probably around the time Best Man Holiday came out. That would be my guess. If I had to pinpoint a time when this probably got audio description, would have been maybe around that time. So I like the movie. I think it's a good movie. I think it's a great little ensemble full of people who will all go on to do bigger and better things for the most part, except for the women whose names I always forget because they definitely did not have the same lasting career as everyone else in this movie and keep hoping for Best Man sequels. But then again, the film does not really lend itself to the women, and the two women who have the most to do are the two who float closest to Taye Diggs. So, and that's Nia and Sanaa's characters. So, I mean, even arguably Terrence and Harold really don't have that much to do here. It's just by the time you're done with the whole Best Man franchise, you'll feel like you know them a little bit better. So yeah, I like The Best Man. I think you should watch it. It's Valentine's Day and it's Black History Month. So, like, two birds right here. If you're looking for something to sort of jump on this, it's written and directed by a black director and has an all-black cast. It's a franchise that launched itself sort of self-made. It's an original franchise, and they made sequels to it. It's a really good romantic comedy. It's not the best romantic comedy, but I would put this in like the second tier of rom-com classics. I think there are some that are just like the top echelon, that are like the go-tos. The immediate sort of like when you think of rom-com, you think of blank. I don't think that's quite there, but I think it's in like the next tier of movies down. So it still is one that is frequently revisited and discussed. Usually when I do anniversary things, I always talk about, has this film stood the test of time? And I'm like, yeah, obviously, because what was it, like 2 or 3 years ago, they wrapped up in a limited series for Peacock. So that's a great sign that for the last 25 years, people have been continuing to think about The Best Man. So obviously, yes, it has. For 25 years, people have been thinking about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have greenlit a limited series for something that people had completely forgotten existed. It's not like we had a limited series for The Wood, another all-black cast that came out of 1999. Peacock wasn't like, oh man, we got to see what's up with the cast of The Wood, um, so yeah, not every film has the same sort of punch and weight behind it, but The Best Man was a decent hit in its time, and it's played out well since then. I'm going to give The Best Man an A-. I like this movie. I think it's charming. I don't think it's well audio described, but I think it's, I benefited from the fact that I saw this 25 years ago, and I'm more familiar with the characters because of the sequels, going back to see the original. I think the original is the best thing in the franchise. But certainly this is where it started, and it goes downhill from here. But at least, you have that feeling. If you can anchor yourself by watching this, if you watch anything else after that, you'll see sort of that dynamic in the friendship. And this cast just sort of blends together and meshes really well together. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.